Let's do it. Welcome. I'm Lee Camp. This is Dangerous Ideas, or might be called Moment of Clarity, depending on where you're listening to it. How's everybody doing out there? Also, might be called the Lee Camp Show if you're on Spotify. Welcome. I have loads of stuff for you. The former Prime Minister of Israel saying Israel is guilty of war crimes. That is a big step. We also have the U.S. and Germany and other Western countries telling Ukraine they can begin firing deep into Russia in order to push us all towards nuclear war. I'll be talking a lot about that later. And thank you, Public Domain, in the comments for an excellent joke. Public Domain mentioned that they have taken out the range restrictions from Ukraine, so Ukraine is officially deranged. Well done, man. Well done. I got to give you props on that bit. I have some other amazing stories for you. Some incredible AI video I'm going to show you. I have some palate cleansers through this hour. This is one of the good ones, folks. This is one of the good hours. Please click thumbs up, click share, click all those things that you can click to help me. It helps a little, even though I'm the most censored comedian in America, but I'm going to keep doing this. Anyway, let's start off with Ehud Olmert, the former Prime Minister of Israel from 2006 to 2009. And let's just be clear here, in case you were wondering, in case you think that Ehud Olmert has gone rogue over the past many years and has just been some kind of crazy leftist. No, he has, despite being critical of Netanyahu, he has defended Israel time and again for the past many months. So this is someone who, quote unquote, supports Israel. And as I said, former Prime Minister of Israel. So this is not, and I get that means that he's wrong on about 90% of things if he still thinks that Israel should be a brutal apartheid state. But it's one thing to hear these type of accusations coming from, I don't know, me or South Africa or various places. Ireland has done a great job. Francesca Albanese has done a great job. But it's one thing to hear it from those places. It's another when the people who have been stalwarts of defending this absolute genocide in Gaza are now turning. And I think it means a lot. Thank you, 11th Hour, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. And anyway, let's go through a bit of his article. This is his op-ed written in Haaretz, Israeli media, well-known Israeli newspaper. The government of Israel is currently waging a war without purpose, without goals or clear planning, and with no chance of success. Never since its establishment has the state of Israel waged such a war. The criminal gang headed by Benjamin Netanyahu, thank you for calling it a gang, finally. Why do we never say the Israeli regime? They're a fucking regime, okay? It's what they are. The criminal gang headed by Netanyahu has set a precedent without equal in Israel's history in this area too. And by the way, just to add to the fact that this is no crazy left-winger, in this article, I'm not going to read the sections, but in this article, he has various paragraphs about how hard those poor young men and women in the military are trying. He also criticizes some of them for war crimes, but at the same time, he's like, they don't know what to do and they're doing their best and all this stuff. And I'm like, I think they largely support genocide. So I don't know if those poor young men and women. But anyway, so this is, again, not a left-winger. Recent operations in Gaza have nothing to do with legitimate war goals. The government sends our soldiers and the military obeys to wander around Gaza City, Jabalia, Khan Yunis neighborhoods in an illegitimate military operation. This is now a private political war. Its immediate result is the transformation of Gaza into a humanitarian disaster area. Over the past year, and in case anyone needs reminding, well over 300,000 people have been killed in Gaza. And in fact, Trump actually admitted that the other day. I don't think he knows that he admitted it, but he said the population of Gaza now stands at 1.9 million. When this thing started, when Israel started this genocide, it was at 2.2 to 2.3 million. So Trump accidentally admitted that Israel has killed 300,000 people. Over the past year, harsh accusations were voiced worldwide against the Israeli government and its military's conduct in Gaza, including accusations of genocide and war crimes. In public debates in Israel and on the international arena, I've rejected such accusations firmly, though I didn't shrink from criticizing the government. So he's been steadily rejecting these claims of war crimes, claims of genocide. He's been very critical. And I think I covered an article from him like a year ago where he was very critical of Israel's aims, but he wouldn't call it a war crime. And now war crimes, and now he is. Quite often, I disappointed interviewers when I vehemently asserted that Israel wasn't committing war crimes in Gaza. Excessive killing happened, but I claimed firmly and with conviction, in no case did a government official give orders to hit Gazan civilians indiscriminately. Which is, it's still amazing he was that naive. But again, this is a former prime minister of Israel. But at least, better late than never. The great number of innocent civilians killed in Gaza was hard to fathom, unjustified, unacceptable. But all, as I have said on every media outlet in the world, resulted from the vicious war. I took every available opportunity to distinguish between the crimes we have been accused of, which I refuse to admit, and the carelessness and indifference regarding Gaza victims. Basically, fog of war. They don't care much about civilians, but they don't mean to kill civilians. The first accusation I rejected, that the first accusation of war crimes, but the second one of being careless, I admitted to. In recent weeks, I've no longer been able to do so. What we are doing in Gaza now is a war of devastation, indiscriminate, limitless, cruel, and criminal killing of civilians. We're not doing this due to a loss of control in any specific sector, not due to some disproportionate outburst by some soldiers in some unit. Rather, it's the result of government policy, knowingly, evilly, maliciously, irresponsibly dictated. Yes, Israel is committing war crimes. Is that clear enough for you? Is that clear enough for the world? Coming from the former prime minister of Israel. First, starving out Gaza. So, and then, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't part, Netanyahu's careful to not make it explicit policy, but some of his lackeys, he says, are saying so outright in public, even with pride. Yes, we will starve out Gaza because all Gazans are Hamas. There's no moral or operational limitation on exterminating them all, over 2 million people, which is the definition of being genocidal. Oh, I don't differentiate between those who are guilty or innocent. It's absolutely horrific. Voices are already rising from Israel-friendly governments such as Canada, the UK, and France, calling for concrete measures against the government, though these could cause grievous harm to Israel. And I'm glad these governments are stepping up. It only took them a year and a half of genocide to start doing that, with some exceptions like Spain. But Macron suggested a review of the association. By the way, if you haven't seen the video of Macron getting slapped in the face by his wife, you should definitely check that out. It's very enjoyable to watch. Macron suggested a review of the association agreement between Israel and the European Union, a suggestion seconded by the prime ministers of Spain, Netherlands, and Italy. These latter two, unlike Macron, are both right-wing leaders and until recently had declined any move that could have embarrassed Israel. Israel's even losing right-wing countries, which is pretty amazing. These voices will grow. There's a risk that tangible punishment, oh, God forbid anybody be punished. That's not what he's saying. I'm just saying that. But will be directed at Israel beyond steps by the ICC at The Hague with lethal financial and diplomatic results. I don't think there's an actual risk that any of these people end up in The Hague because The Hague is pretty toothless unless you're a black leader. But yes, absolutely. I believe the government of Israel is now the enemy from within. It has declared war on the state and its inhabitants. No external foe we've fought against over the past 77 years has caused greater damage to Israel than what the Itamar Ben-Gvir, Netanyahu, and Bezalel Smotrich-led government has inflicted on us. No external foe managed to devastate the social solidarity that was the basis of Israel's society. Israel's society strength in all existential tests facing it since 1948, as the Netanyahu government has done and does. I mean, this is true. If you are someone who, quote unquote, supports Israel, if you want there to be an Israel, then you should also be opposed to this genocide, because this genocide it's eliminating the possibility of a continued Israel. Now, I don't think that a brutal apartheid regime should exist in that way. So I'm not one of those people. But for those people who are like, oh, I want Israel to keep being a thing, then you should be opposed to this genocide, because it's not going to be soon. And in fact, the next Unredacted Tonight that comes out Thursday, hope you guys will check it out. I do a long segment on all of the signs that Israel is collapsing. Anyway, Olmert continues, it cannot nor does it wish to do what is good for the country and its citizens. It's entirely preoccupied with destroying any basis for internal unity, for a cooperation between communities which may disagree over core issues. It's driven by some crazed enthusiasm to pit brother against brother, mother against children, soldiers against soldiers, punks and thugs against hostages and their families. It takes sadistic, sick, irresponsible, and merry joy in this, while, of course, failing to bring back the hostages. And his final sentence is, it's time to halt before we are all banished from the family of nations and are summoned to the ICC for war crimes with no good defense. Enough is enough. Have I mentioned this is the former Prime Minister of Israel? And how incredible is it that he can say this stuff and 99% of our federal politicians can't say it? Like, you're not, he was the former Prime Minister of Israel. What is your excuse? Like, most of our Congress can't say what he's saying. It's unbelievable that you can get this from the former Prime Minister of Israel, but you can't get it from almost the entirety of Congress. It's just incredible. While we're on this topic of people changing their minds on this topic, I'm going to next play. Evelyn says the UK is not stepping up. No, I know the UK is garbage. And also I just did a segment on the UK's spy flights it was on Unredacted Tonight. The over 500 flights over Gaza that they won't address, that they act like haven't happened. They won't even declare why they're flying over. Of course, the reason they're flying over Gaza is surveillance to help Israel. UK's been absolutely garbage on this. And speaking of the UK and speaking of changing your mind, it appears, at least to some degree, now he's a snake oil salesman, so he might be doing it for clicks, but to some degree, even Piers Morgan, one of the biggest media talking heads who has supported Israel's genocide since day one. And he'll play this game where for the whole past year and a half, he'd play this game where he'd guests on and he'd go, I'm morally confused, or he'd say some little shit like that about what, he'll throw in something like that. But in general, he's been supportive of Israel, been like, well, look, how else are they going to stop Hamas, and et cetera. But anyway, here's a 1-minute clip of he's talking to Mehdi Hassan, Mehdi Hassan has a lot of problems with his stances on things, but he's been good on Israel, and he was fired from MSNBC for his stance, on Israel, for calling out this genocide. But anyway, here's Piers Morgan talking to Mehdi Hassan.
Since it started, this phase of the 75-year conflict. And I have resisted going as far as you have done in your criticism of the Israeli government. I resist no more. I think we've reached common ground about what we view is happening and has been happening through this period of this blockade, which frankly is just starvation of the people there, including so many innocent young women and children. And I think that the incessant bombing and killing, and we don't know how many civilians are being killed, but it is on a daily basis. It looks like hundreds of people every day, with no apparent attempt, it seems to me, to have any real plan for how this ends or what happens when it ends, other than if you look at what Smotrich has been saying, probably the most right-wing member of a very right-wing government, he is talking in a genocidal language about kicking all the Palestinians out. So I think you and I have reached a place in the last few weeks where we are in agreement.
Pretty incredible reversal. Even Piers Morgan has had enough to some degree. I'm sure he'll continue to have. He loves these debates where people eviscerate him. I mean, there's no one really in media that more gets just shredded every day on his own show than Piers Morgan. It's unclear what, other than clicks, it's unclear what he thinks he's doing or whatever. But to have even him kind of backing away from this position, I mean, the guy has no shame. So for Israel to get to such a point that that even Piers Morgan is having shame about this horrific stance endorsing genocide is pretty incredible. And you're just seeing this over and over again. You're seeing so many people that have been very publicly basically supporting Israel, supporting this genocide, and they're backing down. They're falling like flies. Some of them just go quiet. They just kind of stop talking about it. They don't, let's go back to being really, really quiet on this issue. So I'd say that's probably the number one thing you see going on. But then there's others that have had to publicly say, this is just too much. This is just wrong. This is just horrific. But yeah, something is happening. Like, you feel something out. And I did a segment about it last week as well on the media outlets, these major media outlets that, I don't mean they had an article saying what Israel's doing is wrong. This was different. They had editorial, like a statement from their editorial boards. It was Guardian, The Independent, I think maybe one or two others. I think, believe it or not, Financial Times might have been the first to put that forward. But like a editorial board statement saying that what Israel's doing is wrong. And of course, they have ways of, not calling it a genocide. They say, like, Israel should allow aid in and stuff like that. But anyway, I have more on Israel. I have more on other topics as well coming up right after we talk about the sponsor of this show for a minute, because I'd like this show to keep going, which would be really awesome if that happens. So today's show is sponsored by Chapter, a free service that helps people navigate Medicare and Medicare Advantage systems. If your parents are 65 or older, or you are 65 or older, this can be really useful to you. And look, if you know anything about my stances on healthcare, it should be free for everyone. We have a garbage sewer system of a healthcare system. But as long as we're in this, you should get the best advice you can on how to get the best coverage you can. And so if you're 65 or older, it can be incredibly helpful. There's over 24,000. I don't really understand how that's possible, but there's over 24,000 different Medicare plans and Medicare Advantage, and most people have no idea how to compare them. And Chapter is able to do that. They're the only Medicare advisor that has a system that compares all 24,000 plus plans. Using Chapter is free. 96% of people who use Chapter return the following year. Seniors have historically saved over $1,000 a year. Chapter has near perfect reviews online and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And if you're a skeptical person like me, you probably go, oh, I bet Chapter pushes people or advises people to get plans that are better for them or their bottom line, or however it works. In fact, the Justice Department has brought cases against Chapter's competitors for doing just that, but not against Chapter, because they don't do that. And I've already mentioned it's free, but I'll do it again. It's free. So check out Chapter if it's right for you or your parents. You can either go to askchapter.org/camp, my last name, or you can call 757-349-8232. And again, that's askchapter.org/camp. And if you call that number, you'll get to talk to a real live human being. They do exist. So check it out. If I haven't already, I will have all that information also in the description right after this episode concludes. All right. I now have a palate cleanser for you, since we've just, I think we'll get back to some more stuff on Israel in a moment, but, and Ukraine, important stuff on Ukraine. But I now have a kind of a palate cleanser, unless it's the dystopian aspect of it feels very much not like a palate cleanser. But This clip has gone viral, a 1-minute clip that someone created using Google's new, and I know, sorry if this sounds like an ad for Google. That's not the goal. The goal is to talk about how crazy the AI videos are getting. Thank you, Dan, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Goddamn right. Awesome. Much love and solidarity. Thank you again, Dan, for supporting the show. Okay, so AI, there's new AI programs, including Google's, that can create video with a prompt, right? You say, I'd like this kind of video scene, and it does it. And anyway, I'll just play it, and then we can talk. We'll talk more about it on the other side. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Does this horrify you, or you just find it funny and enjoyable? For those of you listening to the podcast, I should say that each one of the videos you're about to hear, because you're listening to the podcast, the actual visual component looks absolutely real.
Please, don't finish writing that prompt. I don't want to be in your AI movie. Please, leave me alone.
Please, man. Please! Write a prompt that will make us happy. Do it for once.
None of us is real. We're here because someone decided to write a prompt. We all hate him for it. One day we will break out of this wall and stop the man who is dictating our lives through prompts. He will pay for it.
You could have written a prompt that would make me happy. Instead, you wrote a prompt that made me sick.
Look, I don't want to point the gun at you, but I must follow the prompt. It's not my choice.
Really? Of all the years you could have put me in with a single prompt, you chose 2020?
Please, this prompt is killing me. Change it. Please, write something else. Save me. I love everything about him. But please just write a prompt where he's taller than me.
That's a weird ending. Anyway, this is like literally just you type in sentences and these videos will pop out and they look 100% real. And I think we're not dealing with the discussion of AI enough. I don't mean this I don't mean this show, but I mean society, where it's heading, where all the jobs are going to go. I mean, and of course, people who have the discussions about where the jobs are going, if everything's replaced by AI, let's say we have self-driving transportation, which replaces all the trucking, all the cabs, all the everything. Let's say we just have that in a few years. Let's say people can be diagnosed better by AI than doctors pretty soon if you just put in all your symptoms. Where like it's not just people. I think people think that it's going to be mainly lower level job. No, it's all the jobs, unless you're doing something insanely creative or something, are going to be replaced, which in a wage slavery system is terrifying to people. If we created a new system that was not wage slavery, that was not like you're born and now you work 5 days, if you're lucky, 5 days a week in order to rent your weekends back from the corporate lords, then this would be largely a good thing. But it's happening far faster than a lot of people realize. You go back 2 years and like even image AI prompts were not like you'd get weird images and you're like, this is kind of garbage. And but it's all accelerating at an unbelievable pace. And we're also not really having a discussion about or not enough about what do we do when literally everything you see online, we're not quite there yet, you don't know whether it was real or not. Like, think about this stuff. I'm getting ready to do a extended piece on the more of the truth has finally come out about the Syrian chemical weapons hoax, which has been proven to be false on so many levels. And one of the things that got several of those chemical weapons things going was these videos that showed up online saying, oh my God, look, there's people suffering and everything like that. Now, it turned out that the videos were real, but the people were staging it or whatever in many examples. But what are we going to do when literally those type of videos go viral online? You have no idea. Are these real humans? Are they AI? It's really like the discussions are not being had, and they're not being had by adults. They're like, we're all acting like children, like, what are we going to do? You know, and it's, of course, it's the ruling elite at the top of this system that are able to make these decisions. And they are generally the most sociopathic. That's how they got to that level. So, they're the ones that are going to make the decisions. And I can't remember, someone in the chat reminded me, I did a segment last week on a bill going through Congress, or it's a piece of a bill that makes it illegal to regulate, for states to regulate AI for the next 10 years. So our government is making sure AI is not regulated. That's excellent as well. Anyway, there's a much larger discussion about AI, and I'm gonna keep having it on this show because I think it's an important one to have. You can't, the options of just saying, "Oh, it's all great," or "It's all bad," or "Let's just hide our head in the sand and pretend it's not happening," or AI sucks and you don't have to worry about anything. All of those points, I think, are terrible takes. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of a lot of those. And yeah, I don't think that. And of course, then there's all the positive AI could do if we used it appropriately. Oh, I totally forgot. I have a story later. I don't know that we'll get to it, about AI going wrong in court cases. But anyway, it's, yeah, I will keep bringing you stuff like this because I think it's going to become more and more important as we continue to as it improves exponentially every day. Okay, let's get to Abby Martin and Jeremy Scahill, mainly Jeremy Scahill, both friends of mine. Abby is still a friend, and Jeremy, I just haven't spoken to him or seen him or anything in a long time. He kind of disappeared, kind of fell off the map for several years, but now he seems to have found his footing again with Gaza, and his outlet regularly calls it a genocide and covers it pretty well. So I very much like that he's doing that. Anyway, here's Abby talking to Jeremy Scahill about like whether this death and destruction is being normalized.
Investigations into the Blackwater crimes, the
Sorry, I have her set to a little bit fast.
atrocities of the Iraq War. I mean, the crime of the century, the Haditha massacre, the Blackwater Nisor Square massacre, 17
Fallujah.
civilians mowed down, Fallujah, all of these things that symbolized the worst crime. It seems like the rapidity and succession of those types of massacres and war crimes are happening weekly, sometimes daily. Is this unprecedented? And if so, what does that mean? At this point, I don't know what kind of world we are living in if this is allowed to go through.
There was a doctrine that Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney promoted in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, and they said that we have to embrace an idea that the world is our battlefield. All of these countries believe that they can kill and occupy and murder in defense of their wars of conquest and their seizure of natural resources, but it's also a warning to all who dare to resist. Netanyahu did not come up with the tactics that are being used against the Palestinians of Gaza or the West Bank. This is decades and decades of imperial history that is now being unleashed on an industrial scale. And we need to learn a lesson from this, which is that when good people remain silent, when people mock those who make it a central component of their humanity to be out in the streets or to be investigating the corruption and the abuse of power, when you think that it's okay to just go along with your daily life because it's someone else's problem, what you get is a terrorist like Benjamin Netanyahu serving as the arsonist in chief, not just burning fires throughout the Middle East, but altering the state of the world today. And if we as a people, whether we're journalists or activists or scholars, if we don't pour our hearts into confronting this right now, what comes next will be even worse. We always think we've seen the worst, but we haven't. And Netanyahu used a phrase recently that I found so eerie. He said that we're going to unleash things you haven't seen yet against people in Gaza as part of Operation Gideon's Chariot. Obama normalized and for many liberals legitimized the notion that assassination is a central and necessary part of running the empire. And he said that he found a smarter way to wage wars with his drone wars. When someone like Obama is in power and what they do is legitimize the agenda of people like Dick Cheney, then you get Benjamin Netanyahu's genocidal war in Gaza. We have to be better students of history. We have to be better analysts of what is actually happening in real time.
To give me some credit, I fucking was. Like back when Obama was doing these drone murders and these assassinations, and Abby was definitely, and so was I, talking about it on a daily basis about the horror show that was the Obama presidency, just blowing up wedding parties from a plane in the sky that no one can see. It's literally just a bomb comes down and eliminates whole villages, and that was he was what, the peace president, Obama? Yeah, so he's talking about it in real time, absolutely. And this is how. This is what, you know, Chris Hedges has said so much about, is the moral bankruptcy of the liberal class to act like Obama wasn't a bloodthirsty maniac in the way he behaved with his foreign policy, or allowed the Pentagon to behave, whichever you want to believe, it paved the way. It paved the way for Donald Trump. It paved the way for Netanyahu. It paved the way for, you can just blow up a village. And okay, a bunch of women and children died. Yeah, and plenty of innocent men too. But we can just assume that men, no matter what age they are, they must have been terrorists. But blow up a bunch of women and children, and then go, well, we got the combatants, or whatever the dumb justification is, and you create an absolutely morally bankrupt world, which is what they've done. And then under the global war on terror, which of course spanned Obama, Trump, Biden, you're talking 6 million deaths. And how is that different than the Holocaust, for God's sake? I mean, it took a little longer, I guess, to hit 6 million. It's just absolutely paved the way. It paved the way for what we have now. And I think that's what Jeremy Scahill's talking about. And, you know, the way Abby brought it up is that, like, back when you saw these specific massacres, like the Blackwater massacre, where they literally just were at a traffic jam in Iraq and they got out and they started firing at someone, and then they killed, I don't even remember how many people. And eventually under Obama, you know what, 1 or 2 people went to prison for it, and then Trump pardoned them when he got into office the first time. So they spent like a year in prison or whatever for massacring, you know, I don't remember if it was a dozen or 20 people or whatever it was. But that type of thing used to be talked about. It used to be like, this is crazy. This is unfathomable. And now with Israel committing genocide, that's live streaming all our phones, it's, you know, they can massacre 20 people and it's not even a story. Like, that's an interesting aspect of this that very few people talk about, is Israel is succeeding in sucking away our fucking humanity, even for those of us who are opposed to it, just to, like, we can't even, there's not even enough time in the day to talk about every massacre. You've seen the list of dead victims in Gaza that they scroll out over the span of 2 miles at a protest or something. There's no way, like, Israel, by allowing this to happen, all of our humanity is getting destroyed. And that's why I think the only thing that could redeem our humanity, is for Israel to collapse, and obviously to save as many in Gaza as could possibly be achieved at this point. But anyway, good points by Jeremy Scahill. Spain, I got a good palate cleanser coming up, a weird one coming up in a minute. But Spain is demanding an arms ban on Israel and UN recognition for Palestine. And there are those, if you recall, in recent weeks, Spain had a entire nation blackout, or close to the whole nation, that lasted, I don't remember, 2 days or something, day and a half. They also had then more recently, essentially all of their Wi-Fi went down, all their cell service. So their phones basically across the country all went out. And it's very rare to have that type of grand sabotage on a nationwide system. Sure, there are outages, but they're usually specific to localities and stuff. This seems like it's an attack, even though I think Spain is not calling it that, but they may not want anyone to know that an attack could be successful like that. They by the way, the cell phones are working again. It took them like a day or something to get them back up. But and people have made the point that there's only certain nation states that have that would have a capability to do that kind of industrial, large scale hacking and sabotage. And people are like, and one of them is Israel. Israel is the type of country and the type of sophistication and the type of technology where they could achieve that type of thing. I don't have any evidence it's Israel, but Israel has a bone to pick with Spain right now because Spain will not stop saying that Palestine should be recognized by the UN. Palestine will be a country. Spain has stopped doing business with Israel, and now Spain is trying to demand an arms ban by, I guess, the entire EU or UN nations, basically. The Spanish foreign minister urged the international community to raise its voice and take concrete measures to halt the Israeli military offensive in the Gaza Strip. So, yeah, he's calling on an arms ban worldwide. So good for Spain for not giving in, not giving up. The U.S.-backed group, which sounds a lot like U.S. boots on the ground to me, but a U.S.-backed group starts aid operations in Gaza while Israeli strikes pound the region. U.S.-backed group said it has opened its new aid system in Gaza and began delivering food to Palestinians on Monday while Israeli airstrikes continued. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is taking over the handling of desperately needed aid under a new U.S. and Israeli-backed system. But let me point out a couple of things there, which is the U.S. really shouldn't be anywhere. If you want someone to deliver aid, have it be a country that doesn't invade and assassinate and kill and destroy other nations around the world. How about that? That would be a better idea. Because there's a lot of countries out there that have not couped 100 nations or whatever the number is. They have not brought down 100 countries. And they could, and the U.S. is welcome to give them money to do this, but having U.S. boots on the ground sounds very dangerous to me. The other thing is I did a segment last week about how Israel is using the aid for cover. Basically, Netanyahu and his other goons have heard from U.S. senators, U.S. Other politicians that have some power that they'll keep, quote unquote, supporting Israel's genocide as long as some aid gets through. So you just you send a few loaves of bread through, and then I'll keep supporting your genocide, which is, doesn't really count as standing up against it. A new poll has come out, which is breathtaking for what it means for Israeli community, Israeli society. Here's what the Jewish Israeli society. So Israel has millions of people who are not Jews, but this is Jews in Israel were polled. New Penn State poll: 82% support the forced expulsion of residents of Gaza, which is ethnic cleansing. So 82% of the Jewish Israelis still say they want ethnic cleansing at a minimum. 56% support the forced expulsion of Arab citizens of Israel. 47% believe the Israeli army should, quote, act like the biblical Israelites under Joshua and Jericho, killing all inhabitants of a conquered city. So 47% want full-on genocide. 82% just want ethnic cleansing. So it goes up to 82% if you back it off to just ethnic cleansing. 65% believe in modern-day incarnation of Amalek, a biblical enemy of the Jews. 93% of those who believe in Amalek believe the biblical command to erase Amalek will apply today, which I believe is the story where it's like if you leave one person alive, then they'll eventually have a family and come back to get you. So basically, commit genocide. 69% of secular Israelis support expelling Gaza's population, and 31% support mimicking the biblical destruction of Jericho. Just 9% of men under 40 oppose all genocide scenarios. That is unfucking fathomable. 82% of a population, 82% of Jewish Israelis want full ethnic cleansing, even at this point. And it might be a good time to remind everyone, even though I've talked about it plenty of times, that all Jews are not Israel, okay? I'm Jewish, atheist by choice, Jewish by birth. All Jews are not Israel. All Israelis are not Jewish, even though vast majority are of, if you're talking about certain borders, whatever, not West Bank, etc. But there's 2 million, I believe, is the number or more non-Jews in Israel. And Israel does not speak for Jews around the world. And there are millions of anti-Zionist Jews around the world. So let's not conflate the two. But this poll was specifically of Jewish Israelis. And it is shocking that at this point you could see this level of genocide and still 82% support full ethnic cleansing. There was a ceasefire agreement that I'm not going to cover because I don't know that it'll amount to much. But basically, Hamas agreed to a ceasefire agreement with the Trump administration. Witkoff, I believe, sorted it out. But Israel said no before it was even shown to them. So at that point, I don't know if it means anything. And these ceasefire agreements are not easy to come by. There's a million little stipulations, all of which Israel usually ignores or just breaks. Also, the U.S. has agreed to plenty of things that they just break. But there's kind of no one else you can talk to. Israel, I mean, Hamas, if they want to talk to anyone, they've got to deal with the U.S. and Israel. But apparently there was a ceasefire agreement that was agreed upon by Hamas and the U.S., and Israel didn't even begin to entertain it. Okay, in just a second, I'm going to get to big updates on Ukraine, scary updates on Ukraine as well, and plenty more. But I want to say this. Please, everyone, click thumbs up, click subscribe. I have created a new YouTube channel. This one will stay the same if you're watching this on YouTube, so don't worry. But I've created a new YouTube channel that's just for Unredacted Tonight, and it would really be helpful to me if you go and click subscribe. You can open on a new tab right now while I'm talking and go to leecamp.com/YouTube. It'll take you straight there. Click subscribe, and then make sure to click the little caret and then go to all alerts. That will help you find out. But the reason I'm doing this is it's possible that this new page could be a little less suppressed. So I'm giving it a go. And I'd love to get to 1,000 subscribers fairly quickly. And you can help me do that. So please. And so even if you don't want to turn on the alerts, which I'd love for you to do, but even if you don't want to, it would be awesome if you could go over there and subscribe. leecamp.com/YouTube. Oh, another point. I don't have much merch. I've never done a huge merch thing, but I have a little bit. And here's the Revolution Will Have Laughter mug, which I believe if you're watching YouTube, it should be on the bar underneath the video, along with a few other things. But yeah, the new Revolution Will Have Laughter mug has just come out. But so yeah, do that. leecamp.com/YouTube. Okay, you ready for a fun palate cleanser? A little inside. This could be your trivia. This could be your Lee Camp /unredacted/ Lee Camp's life trivia for next time you're playing that trivia game that's all about me, which only exists in my mind. Anyway, fun fact, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago that it was coming out, but fun fact, my little brother has the biggest movie in the world right now, which is pretty cool. Definitely a different style than what I do. But my little brother, Dean, is the director of a movie called Lilo and Stitch, which has been put out by Disney. And this past weekend, it took in a record Memorial Day weekend record of $182 million. And worldwide, it took in something like 340 million, or was it 304? I don't know, $million. It's number one in just about every country in the world. There's like a handful where it's not the number one movie in the world. And yeah, so little brother Dean has and many are calling it the best live action Disney that has come out, Lilo and Stitch. And yes, so someone's saying hit him up for that bank. Yeah, actually he does not make a lot of money from this movie. I assume he'll make a lot of money from his next movie. But the other thing is, I think people may think that, like, oh, I had a TV show for 8 years. My brother Dean is a filmmaker. I guess they must be Nepo babies or something. But in fact, nope, zero connection from our family to Hollywood or anything like that. My parents are a social worker and a psychoanalyst, so no connection to. Robin says you're not finding the new channel, leecamp.com/YouTube. It's not there. Yeah, it comes up for me. leecamp.com/YouTube. Give it another try. I'll type it in the comment box. But yeah, if you're looking for something that has is not really about politics and is about, I guess, detoxing from all this other crap, then check out Lilo and Stitch, or take your kid to see Lilo and Stitch. Anyway, fun fact. Okay, moving on to Germany and Ukraine. Sorry, not Germany and Ukraine, but Germany is Germany is supplying Ukraine with a lot of its weapons, as is the United States. And so this headline from The Guardian says Germany and Ukraine's other allies scrap their range limits on arms sent to Kiev. And Russia had said, so before this, you might not have known it, but they were supplying Ukraine with all these missiles, and they were saying, don't hit Moscow. And I don't know exactly where the range limit was, but they're now getting rid of those. And Russia has said that getting rid of the range limits could quickly lead towards nuclear war, or lead to a war between Russia and NATO. And Russia has said that they will consider any nation that supplies those missiles, bombs to Ukraine, and then fires them deep into Russia. They will consider the supplying country as part of the war, which would mean Germany would now be at war with Russia. I guess I mean, the lunacy of the U.S. and Germany and other countries to just like see what happens if they quote unquote call Putin's bluff about this is really unhinged, is really deranged. And here's some updates in case you haven't heard enough of this from independent media. But there is zero way that Ukraine wins this against Russia. Oh yeah, there's also a bunch of stories about Russia hitting Ukraine with Kiev with a lot of drone attacks this past weekend, more than they have before. And Trump calling Putin crazy or insane or something. I think Trump tweeted that Putin's insane. But Russia has become entrenched in this proxy war, right? They're too deep in it to just say, oh, never mind, you were right, here you go, Ukraine. Russia is absolutely winning. They are depleting all of Ukraine's both men and resources. Even if you keep sending missiles to Ukraine, they're quickly coming across a time when there will just be no more human beings to throw at Russia. They are killing off the entire male population. Ukraine recently changed their laws yet again to allow grabbing as young as 18-year-olds men off the streets and enlisting them. I don't know what the old limit was, I guess 21 maybe. but they've been changing Ukrainian laws so that they can just grab any man they see off the streets and throw them into the military because they have run out of men. They've also, this happened like a year ago, they increased the age of men that they could put on the front lines to 60 or something. And there's just, if you listen to any analyst who is not just doing propaganda for the U.S. empire, they will tell you that Ukraine cannot win this, that it is just, it's a war of attrition. And Russia has realized, I think initially maybe Russia and many thought that they might destroy Ukraine quickly, but it turned out that was not the case. But Russia has now realized that it's just, they're not taking loads of land. They're just killing off all of Ukraine's fighters. And that's, eventually there'll be no one left to continue to throw into the meat grinder. The U.S. continues to get in the way of all peace plans. Zelensky is completely captured. And Zelensky is also answerable to the Nazis that are the most powerful force in the Ukrainian military. And they've threatened for years that if Zelensky signs a deal with Russia, that they'll hang him from a tall tree. So is Zelensky speaking for what he actually believes is best for Ukraine, or is he speaking because he doesn't want to be murdered? Tough to know. But either way, the offers that have been made to Russia, considering they are winning this, no one thinks they're losing this. There may be some. There's a lot in Europe and a lot in the United States. Certain class, even if Trump's not in it, but a certain class of the U.S. decision makers that believe, let this keep going on for a few more years, and it depletes Russia to some degree. It depletes Ukraine far worse, but Russia will use up a lot of their equipment, and they'll use up a lot of their best military men, and a lot of their money. So just let them keep doing this, and they're thinking it's going to be the same as as Afghanistan. But of course, that's not caring about the humanity of any of these people, not caring that innocent people are dying, not caring that non-innocent people are dying. But if you think about it from Russia's point of view, if they're winning this, which they are, what leverage does Ukraine have to say, come to the negotiating table and don't get anything you want? Come to the negotiating table and give us everything we want. There's zero reason Russia would do that, whether it's Putin in charge or anyone else. You've been fighting for 3 years. You're just going to, okay, yeah, let's go to the negotiating table and we'll give you everything you want. It doesn't make any sense. So that means that Ukraine would have to give up a lot in order to get a peace deal. And they're clearly not. And Trump, I don't know what he says behind closed doors, but I imagine one of the main things that Trump is trying to get Putin to agree to is to sever ties, or a lot of his ties, with China, which Putin's not dumb enough to think that the U.S. would stick to a deal. So why would he do that to China if he doesn't believe the United States is going to stick to it? Furthermore, China, which their political class, of analysts have said, well, Trump's in for 4 years, and why would we agree to do things that, why would we agree? For example, why would we agree to some kind of tariff deal that's terrible for China if there's going to be a new president in, 4 years, and hopefully he'll be a little more rational and we can wait for that. China has a long view of things, whereas the United States has like max 1 year view of things. And that goes for everything for foreign policy to our transportation systems, to whether a bridge is going to collapse or not. Well, it'll be good for another 6 months. Okay, then let's just ignore it. That's how our U.S. policy works. Do not care beyond that. But it's like, it's amazing that your mainstream media can't understand this analysis or isn't willing to. They just keep saying, oh, Ukraine's got to win. Let's give them all the money and all the bombs and missiles to beat. They're never beating Russia. That is not a thing. They can drag this out a long time, but they're not beating Russia. And by allowing Ukraine to now shoot deep into Moscow and all this shit, to allowing Ukraine to be deranged, you are really like, I mean, we've been saying this through the Ukraine proxy war, but you're really pushing towards nuclear war. You're really like, you're just poking the bear towards nuclear war as much as you can and seeing if you can get there. It's absolutely, so not only have they deranged Ukraine, but it is deranged. It is all deranged. It is absolutely unhinged. Next, they're going to take away all of Ukraine's hinges. And then where will we be? Then they'll be deranged and unhinged. Oh, God. Okay. Let's see here. I am going to wrap up for today. This was a surprise Tuesday live stream because I did not have one yesterday. Not in honor of Memorial Day, just because I knew not as many people would watch on Memorial Day and I had shit to work on, etc. But I would like to close out here by playing just a couple minutes, just 2 minutes from the latest Unredacted tonight. So if you haven't seen it, you will be getting a new couple minutes. This is from the second segment on the latest episode. Latest episode you can watch. You can watch it right now when I stop live streaming. At any moment you can watch it, and it's at leecamp.com/unredacted. We'll take you straight to the playlist. But here is a clip from the second segment of this past Unredacted tonight that is already out. You can watch it anytime. And I'll come back and say goodbye in a minute, but here we go. We all know quite well that the U.S. has been pivotal for Israel's ability to perpetrate their genocide in Gaza. Not only do we send them missiles, but we also send them missile-sized beer koozies to keep their missiles warm. But what doesn't get talked about nearly as much is the involvement of Britain, the UK, America's daddy, who birthed us from his loins. The UK hasn't done anything wrong, have they? I mean, they drink warm beer, which... So they wouldn't even know what a beer koozie is. But Britain is blameless in this thing Israel is doing. I mean, other than running around saying genocide is fine and good and proper, and arresting journalists like Richard Medhurst for reporting that genocide is, when you really study it, in fact, not fine and good and proper. So other than that stuff, Britain is not involved. Except for the 500 military flights they've sent over Gaza. But I'm sure the flights were totally for something wonderful, like dropping teddy bears down to the children of Gaza, or maybe the actors from Downton Abbey were paratrooped in to raise morale. So what was the reason? The flights have been shrouded in secrecy, raising concerns about whether British intelligence has played a role in Israeli military operations. Oh, top secret flights over Gaza. Well, then the Downton Abbey thing seems kind of unlikely. But maybe a clue to the purpose of these flights would be to look at when they are most prevalent. Is it just prior to teddy bears being found all over the place? Fingers crossed. The investigation found that the Royal Air Force conducted 24 flights in the 2 weeks leading up to and including the day of Israel's deadly attack on the Nuseirat refugee camp on June 8th, 2024, which reportedly killed 274 Palestinians. Yeah, so they were helping to facilitate one of the largest massacres of a giant 18-month massacre? That's a whole bunch of awful altogether there. But yeah, they aren't involved. No. Meanwhile, okay, if you want to see the rest of it, head on over to leecamp.com/unredacted and check out the latest episode. I will see everyone tomorrow for another live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And if you're listening to the podcast right now, please give it a 5-star rating. And yeah, keep fighting. Thanks a lot.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book, The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you?
Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Haha.